Nimona is one of Netflix's latest releases on the platform, and it's safe to say that this movie has most definitely garnered a positive reception upon its release. Focusing on two likable main characters that wanted to fight for the right to be accepted and live their life the way that they chose to, despite being slightly different, it was a movie that was a powerful one to watch unfold. With it ending on a cliffhanger and with it seeming as though a happy ending was present, it got me thinking, will another movie be released? And if so, when? Well, I thought I'd take a look at all that was out there along with giving my theories and predictions on what I think could happen next. So let's get into it. Here is Nimona 2, Everything We Know. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The release date. It's rather interesting when it comes to the release date of this next installment of the movie, because it all sits on whether or not Netflix decide to commission it for another. Obviously, after the controversy that went on with Disney with them cancelling the first movie despite the fact that it was being worked on, Netflix swooped in and saved the day. So it does make me wonder if they have more in mind for it and will look to build some parts around this first installment, because it's definitely possible. It all depends on a couple of different things with Netflix. They tend to look at the watch time of a movie, if it's made an impact off of the platform, if it's made it into the top 10 charts on the platform and how long it sits there versus where it peaks at, and also the completion rate. So essentially if people watch the entirety of the movie or if they dropped off when watching. So there are a lot of different things that it has to overcome before getting commissioned. As of now, it's not currently sitting inside of the top 10 charts, which does surprise me, due to the amount of coverage that I feel the movie has had and the positive response that I've seen out there, but there is still time. One other thing that could prevent a sequel is the fact that the author of Nimona, which was originally a graphic novel which the movie was based on, hasn't released a second installment. So unlike this first movie where there was original source material, the show would be going rogue if they decided to progress without the release of a second novel. If we look at the more likely option, which I personally think would be with it being greenlit, which would be with Netflix progressing without the source material, in terms of writing, storyboarding, animating, voicing and creating, along with marketing, I think we could most probably expect to see a second installment of the movie in around early 2025 or late 2024, so there's most probably going to be a little while to wait. The story. With regards to the story for the second movie, I feel there are quite a few different routes that we could see getting explored, and many that could be interesting to follow. The first is the journey outside of the wall. In the movie, we saw that the residents of the kingdom that was being ruled by the director and the institution had never been outside of the wall that surrounded it, nor had their ancestors, hence why they lived the way that they did. So with the wall being broken down and the residents being in awe of the beautiful landscape that they were seeing for the first time, and realizing that the monsters that they perceived to be real that Glorith defeated weren't actually in existence, we could see a quest taking place for Ballister, Nimona, Ambrosius and Todd, venturing over the wall and seeing what's out there in the rest of the world. I think the dynamic of all of those characters together on a journey outside of the wall would actually make quite an interesting concept, with Todd having some kind of redemption and accepting that he was wrong at the end of the first movie. I feel he could definitely slot in and would most probably gel with Nimona quite well. Despite there not being monsters in existence, or at least not that we know of, everything would look quite alien to the characters, so it would be interesting to see how they'd handle seeing many things that they've never seen before. Another option could be a prequel that's focused on Nimona. One good thing about the movie was that it established a universe and showed that it had already been in existence for around 1,000 years, as that was when we saw Nimona first be around and be tarnished with the name of being a monster. We saw her struggling to fit in and to be accepted over the course of the millennia before she met Glorith, and also afterwards. So there's such a large time period to work with. What did she do for those 1,000 years? Was she in hiding because she felt as though she was viewed as a monster? Or was there somebody else that she was also close with over the course of that time period like she originally was with Glorith? Plus, also, where did she come from? She is so different to everybody else that's out there, but she had to come from somewhere, so that would also be interesting to know. There's definitely room for a story like that, as I imagine Nimona has a lot more to her story than just struggling to be accepted after the Glorith tale was exaggerated. The final option could be the development of the institution. The final route that I feel the movie could go down would be if it decided to not venture outside of the wall, but instead we saw what was outside of the wall coming to the kingdom, with the residents in the institution realizing that their minds had essentially been morphed by the director over an exaggerated tale of Glorith slaying a fictional monster. The kingdom looked rejuvenated following the director being taken down. It does make me think that seeing how the residents now perceive the world would be extremely interesting, as everything is new to them. This could also open up the possibility of more individuals like Nimona being present, and them also showing themselves. With the wall being destroyed and there not being anything to keep out, it will be interesting to see what does end up coming to the kingdom. This could also tie into the prequel element in the previous theory, as Nimona may end up seeing more of her kind and start to understand more about her own origin. Something which would not only be good for us to see, but also the character that has never really felt a sense of belonging or acceptance. There are so many different directions that I feel the second movie could go in if it does get released. There's definitely some options on the table, and exciting ones at that, so I do hope that we'll get to explore this universe a lot more. The cast. The cast was something that really did make this movie so good. So many of the performances were so strongly delivered, and the characters really felt as though they translated across the screen well. With there being a few major deaths in this season of the show, it's safe to say that the Queen would most likely not be returning, along with the director too, as she met a demise that seemed pretty tragic in the sense that it was a large explosion. Other than that, I would predict that most of the characters would be returning in the sequel. So that would mean that we could expect to see Nimona return, as her voice was one of the last things that we heard at the end of the movie after finding out that she hadn't died. And I also feel we'd see Ballister, Ambrosius and Todd. I feel we'd most likely get to see some new characters being introduced to us in the next movie too, especially if the characters decide to venture outside of the wall, as they'd most likely stumble across other civilizations and individuals that were there. Plus, even if we don't see an adventure of Ballister venturing outside of the wall, we will most likely be introduced to more characters inside of the new progressive kingdom, rather than one that has closed walls and lives by the word of the institution. So I feel the cast will most likely be a strong part of what's to come in the next movie. Unfortunately, that's all that's known about the sequel to Nimona. Most of it is theories and predictions at this point, but I'm sure more information will be released as time goes on and we draw closer to the release date. So, there you have it, Nimona 2 Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Do you think there'll be a second movie? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.